everyone, it's Wendy. Welcome back to Show Me Mo Vegan and another recipe video. Today I'm showing you a recipe from my blog for my sweet and sour chickpeas. I'll put a link down in the description box for you so you have all of the exact ingredients and amounts. This recipe was a farmer's market inspired recipe. One week I was able to get some beautiful red bell peppers, some broccolini, and some oyster mushrooms at my local farmer's market. So I took those ingredients, threw them together with a few others that I had, and came up with this recipe. I hope you enjoy. I'm starting with one large onion and chopping that up. This one was particularly large, so I chopped the whole thing and used most of it for this recipe, but I'm saving some of it there in a container to put in the fridge for later. Then I have some garlic cloves that I've smashed and am mincing finely. And take a look at these beautiful oyster mushrooms. I get these from my local farmer's market. You can also usually find them in health food stores, but you could even probably find them in some regular grocery stores. If not, no worries, just use whatever mushrooms you have. Oyster mushrooms grow in these little clusters, so you'll cut the mushrooms off of the stem, and as with all mushrooms, you could save that stem to use to make a mushroom broth. And oyster mushrooms are really delicate, so you don't even really need to cut them. I went ahead and just chopped them roughly, but you could even simply shred them with your fingers or some forks. Then I'll go ahead and get the onions and garlic going. I'm oil-free, so I'm putting these in a dry pan, and I'll just use a little bit of water to help avoid any sticking. Next, I'm chopping up my broccolini. You could feel free to use plain broccoli as well. The nice thing about the broccolini is the stems are much more tender than broccoli. But even though they're more tender, I still cut the stems separately, and I'll cook those a little bit longer than the tops. So I'm separating the tops here from the stems. And then I'll add the mushrooms and the broccolini stems to the skillet and give that a stir. While that continues to cook, I'm chopping up my red bell pepper. You could also use orange or yellow bell peppers, but you'll see at the end, if you use the red bell pepper, you almost have the whole rainbow with this dish. Next, I'm chopping up some pineapple. I used frozen pineapple, but you could also use fresh or canned. If you're using a canned or jarred pineapple, try to find one that's not packed in a really sugary syrup. The pineapple will give us a little bit of that sweet and sour for our sweet and sour chickpeas. And for even more sweetness, I'm adding some dried apricots. If you don't like to eat dried fruit or you avoid it for any reason, feel free to just omit this, but it does give a nice flavor. Now I'll dump all the rest of the fruits and veggies I just prepped along with my chickpeas into the skillet and give everything a stir. I'll cover this and let it cook for a couple more minutes while I make the sauce. For the base, I'm using a barbecue sauce. I like this smoky barbecue sauce, but it does have salt added. So if you're salt-free, just use whatever your go-to barbecue sauce is, whether that's a homemade one or something that you have found at the store. Next, I'm adding a little bit of coconut aminos, and again, these do have sodium added, so if you need to avoid it, you can just omit this. Next up, the juice and zest of a lemon. This will give us a little more sour for our sweet and sour chickpeas. If you didn't have a fresh lemon on hand, you might use something like rice vinegar just to get that acidity. And I'm using my handy dandy baby whisk to stir everything together. You could totally just use a fork or a spoon here, but I love this little whisk because it's so cute. I'll add the sauce to the pan and stir until everything is coated. You could cook this another minute or two to let everything come together, but this is basically done. and then serve this on top of or alongside your favorite whole grain. The first time I made it, I used sorghum, which is my personal favorite. Rice would be another delicious option, but this time I'm using a mixture of whole grain. If you want to see how I made this, I'm planning to make a video to show you how I make this in my Instant Pot. So subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll see whenever my next videos come out. I hope you'll give this recipe a try. And as with all of my recipes, remember that there are no hard and fast rules. So you can feel free to mix and match, swap out whatever ingredients you like. Use whatever you have at home and try to have a little fun in the kitchen. Let me know in the comments how it goes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.